Hello, welcome to this new episode of PKM for Research, Personal Knowledge Management for Research. My name is Bianca and I'm a PKM coach and also researcher, and as any researcher, a knowledge creator. It's very common in our conversations of PKM for Research, we hear someone asking, what's the tool that I should use? What is the best tool for taking notes, having bookmarks, or anything related to personal knowledge management for the purpose of research? So I decided, well, why not create a series of videos about that? From time to time, I have the opportunity to meet creators of new tools for thought or PKM tools, and then having the opportunity to see how is the onboarding or how does each tool work. So many people on YouTube or on the internet, they have those unboxing videos where they show exactly how a product comes when they just open the box. So I was thinking, why not to have onboarding videos, which is like our first encounter with the different tools for thought or PKM tools. So in this first video of what I hope will become a series, we have the full onboarding of a conversation that I have with Olivier Soter, and is the onboarding to Memex Garden. So no post-production, no cuts, the onboarding exactly as it was. So I hope you enjoy, and let's see what comes next.
Thanks, first of all, to offer me the chance to have this onboarding with you and to do a recording around it. So what Memex's purpose as a tool is to help us to do better personal and collaborative online research. And the kind of idea where this came from is how can we figure out a way for us to build on each other's online research so that we're less prone to be affected by misinformation and social polarization, because we can dive into topics that other people might already have explored and are able to compare the different perspectives that people have on the content they have been consuming, filtering, annotating, making notes on, and things like that. And so Memex has kind of two parts to it. One is a personal organization part, and one is a collaborative online research part. And specifically, when we're thinking about the personal collaboration, personal organization, it tries to solve these issues where we constantly have to, when we want to make bookmarks or notes about the things we read online, we constantly have to maintain an external structure like folders, like documents where we then copy paste content into, which breaks the flow of the research, and which also means there's a lot of effort in actually like continuing to have that structure, which doesn't always guarantee that we're finding it back also. And when we want to take notes about the things we read, it over time creates this very scattered mess of snippets that we have everywhere that are not linked back anymore to where we originally had it from. So we lose a lot of the context of those notes and things that we copy and pasted out. And the collaboration part is for Memex about how do we more effectively share the research that we've already done with other people so they can consume it? And also, how then can we collaboratively curate, annotate, and discuss things so that we can do, for example, things like literature review or have a shared research project together instead of needing to use things like Google Docs or so, where we then again need to copy paste a lot of things in, and then they're not really reusable in other contexts, which is often the case, that we have notes that might not just be relevant to one context of like maybe one team, but maybe it's your friends too, or your partner, or your followers, or whatnot. Yeah, so these are the kind of two problem spaces that Memex touches on. Maybe if you don't have any other questions about the general purpose of the tool, I can also start giving a demo and a rundown
Yeah,
through how Memex achieves that.
yeah. Because what I understood is that's really it's personal, but also I can share or I can actually collaborate. Let's say write the same thing with another person. Yeah, that's really cool. So I really want
Yep,
to
yep.
see it. Let's see how it is.
Let's do it. All right. You need to enable me to screen share.
Yes.
Um,
Yep.
all right. So yeah, so this is the Memex dashboard. I'm coming back to this in a second, but first I'm gonna just open an article on Wikipedia to showcase how the saving of things works. So let's go to an article that I haven't saved or annotated yet. So one of the kind of design approaches that we have is trying to let you stay in the flow of your research and minimizing the context switches you will have for organizing and taking notes on the things you read. And so now I'm first going to show you how you would organize things on the fly while you're researching. The next step is how to find things again, then how to get the things that you found or that you want to like extract into other applications to kind of finalize that single user flow, where often it's quick saving on the fly, then getting things easily back, and then actually using it in other applications, like other research projects that I maybe again in Google Docs or chat blog or whatnot, or in note-taking apps like Roam or Logseq, Notion, etc. So yeah, the very basic thing you need to do when wanting to save anything, like a website, a PDF, a social media post, or a YouTube video, is you just hover to the right side of the screen and you see this little heart here. And actually this one I already saved, so I'm gonna go to one that I haven't saved. So again, you go to the right side of the screen, you click on this heart, that's it. From that point on, the page is full text searchable. This means you can find it even if you just remember a few words from the text or the time frame you visited it or saved it. And I'm going to show this in a second. I'm first finishing up how to organize while still being in the tab.
So you really like you clip the page. That's what it is. Clip the page and saves in Memex, or.
Yep, or we do actually save a full HTML snapshot in the background. We don't expose it anywhere yet, but later it's meant for having a reader version where you actually have a kind of an archived version and re-indexing things. But what it does is, for now, it just full text indexes it. This means you can search with the words inside the content. It's not clippable as like on Evernote or whatever.
Yeah, because I was thinking in terms, let's say, of a research paper, because sometimes it's behind a paywall, so you need to log in. So I want to know, does it clip from what I'm seeing now, or does it go to the original website and try to clip from there, let's say? Because then I need to have the paywall. It
clips what it's seeing.
What it's okay.
It clips what it's seeing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this was the very basic interaction that you need to do, nothing more. But just because you don't have to organize things in this step doesn't mean you can't. You can also use spaces, which are a bit like tags, with the difference that you can also share and collaborate on curating them together. I'm going to show this later, but ultimately that's kind of the purpose. And we can also, like, for example, here, search, select, enter, escape. That's it. Basically, that's how you would add something to a space. And also these commands are both triggerable with keyboard shortcuts. So for example, Option C on Mac, and then you open it up. Or Option S to do the saving of the page.
And how does it work for PDFs, for example? It
also works for PDFs.
Okay.
No, it also works for PDFs. It actually works also for locally stored PDFs. So I'm going to pull now one in. And then it's in the Memex PDF reader. And then you see here are the highlights that I made on this PDF. This works on a local PDF. So you can both use local PDFs and remote PDFs, and it will allocate, it will identify the PDF as the same PDF, no matter if you move it to another location. And the same way, if you, for example, want to collaborate on annotating that PDF, you send it around via email to someone else with a link to the annotations, or you have maybe a shared Google Drive folder where you collect together all the PDFs and everyone just opens it in their browser and it will match it together and show the annotations. Yeah. That brings us to the annotations. Ultimately, what you can do here is you can highlight a piece of text. And then you have this little tooltip here where you can say, I want to just highlight the text, or I want to also add a note to it. And then you can say, hey, this is important, like this. And there's also a very neat feature that we added. You can adjust the page width, so you have it side by side if you like to. And you can also lock open the sidebar. This means if you click outside, it won't close. So you can have a much better reading experience for things that require you to have the context of all the notes that you made before. So yeah, this was the kind of single like classic web annotations, but we also have YouTube videos that you can annotate. So if you have a video open here, you see like 1709. I can again here go to the right side, click on this comment icon to open the sidebar. And then I can here in the text field, I can say Command Y. I press these keyboard shortcut Command Y, which is also explained here in the formatting help. So you see here, YouTube timestamp, Command Y. And it will create a timestamp that is linked to that specific section. So if you, for example, were to click on this piece here, it will open the video at that specific time of the video.
And I have a question, because for example, one way that I like to take notes is that, let's say I'm watching a video or having a PDF, is that rather than having comments or notes per highlight, let's say, I have, let's suppose that there is the same topic appearing at the beginning of a video, at the middle, and at the end. So I actually want those 3 ones under with the same note, let's say. Is there any way for you to integrate a note, or is there any plan for the notes to be integrated, let's say, 3 rather than be like totally separated, let's say? How does it work?
Yes, so there's 2 parts to the answer. The first part is that timestamp here, you can add multiple times in the note in general. So it doesn't, you can basically, again, you can lock open the sidebar, so you can click outside, you can go to a next stage of the video, and then type in again Command Y, and it will make a timestamp for that section of the video. So that's already working. The part that you would hint towards, what I understand, is how do you make it possible to reference other annotations that you made, maybe even on a different page?
Yeah, I was thinking a step before. Yeah. But that would be good as well. But I was thinking a step before, because for example, in the YouTube video, you can have the timestamps, which that's good. But let's say in a PDF, they are in different pages of a PDF. So if the annotation is together with the highlight, how can you actually have 2 annotations, actually 1 annotation for 2 highlights, let's say? That would be my question.
Yeah, so multi-target annotations, because you might want to say, well, actually, these 2 sentences are in conflict to each other, and I need to highlight that. Yeah. So that's what I was hinting at with that second part of the answer, which would be possible for that. It's not possible yet, but what the idea is that you can reference other annotations inside the body text inside here. And the syntax will be much like if you're used from like Rome or Obsidian or Logseq, where you have block references and you have page references that you can basically inject. And so you can say, I want to reference 2 annotations that I made in the same block to then solve the problem that you describe.
Okay, that's good. Thank you.
And that's actually very close on the roadmap. We have like a couple of steps in between to get there, but I would presume from my current understanding of our pace and what's in the middle, it's probably between 6 and 9 months until we have it in the tool.
Okay. So that will be November, December. I mean, November.
Yeah, let's say until the end of the year.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. All right. So that's the workflows for just organizing things on the fly. Now, the 2 next steps that are important is, how do I find things again? And also, how do I get it into other applications and other workflows where I need them? And so what you can do is, if we go now to the Memex dashboard, is here's a full text search. By the way, you can reach it by just clicking here on the Search Memex button, and it will just open this dashboard ultimately. And so let's go for a word that we want to search here. Let's say aesthetics. I'm just copy pasting it. You don't have to highlight anything. I'm just too lazy right now. And then you paste it in. aesthetics, and now you find all of the articles that have the words aesthetics, like this one, right? This is the Lebensphilosophie that we just had. And you can also filter by time. So you can say, I want to see everything that I saw 2 weeks ago. And then you see all of the articles that have that word inside that were 2 weeks ago. You can filter by domains, so which website it came from, or you can filter by the spaces, so you can drill down on the associations that you might have. So for example, I can now go for Oliver's public reads, and I will see only the Jonathan Blow video because it has both of those spaces.
And can you search inside the notes or just the content of the sources? Can you actually search by the content of the notes, the annotation?
Yeah, here. So that's why you go here to highlights. So you have these two tabs. However, we're planning to integrate it into one search interface, so it's one search list. For now, it's still separate. It's kind of an old, decision that has still some ramifications that we're still in the mode of fixing. So, but yeah, you see now I've switched to highlights, and you see all the highlights that you made in a linear fashion. But if you then search, for example, let's say for the word disposed, you will see it here, these highlights.
Okay,
yeah, so that's basically how you find things again. And as I said before, the advantage is that you don't need to actually organize by default. But yeah, you had a question?
Yeah, I have a few. One is I see that on the side you have like saved on mobile. So how does it work on mobile? Does it work on mobile? How is it?
Yep. So we have a mobile app, and it works for like tablets and regular phones. You can save on mobile. You can annotate on mobile. You can see your collections on mobile. And soon we're actually going to start next week on the work on you'll also be able to share and collaborate from mobile. You can do all of the things then basically there. The only thing that is not possible on mobile right now is doing the full text search. That is not implemented there.
And then I see that you also have like sync. So I suppose like everything is on the cloud, right? All the annotations are on the cloud.
Yes. So it's local first. The application itself is local first, but it's synced. So you have an automatic backup into the cloud, and it syncs between devices. So you can have an infinite amount of devices that you can sync it to. Yeah.
And do you have any way, let's say, if I want to export my annotations, you say like if I want to send somewhere else or another application, how is it exported? Like what's the format? How is the process?
So you have 3 different ways currently how you can get Memex data out. There's a backup tool that allows you to get a full dump of everything continuously dumped on your local hard drive in a JSON format. This is if you're interested to have a more programmatic access to it. The second one is more like, let's say, more handy in if you have a specific workflow where you need to get it into. So I'm going to go now to our kind of shared reading list that we have as a team, just to filter down things. So 1 week ago, so 2 weeks ago. This. And now what you have here is this copy paste search results. So what you can do is you can write custom templates on how you want to extract information out of Memex. So in this case, for example, the one that is made for Rome, I'm just showcasing how it looks, and then I'm going to copy it and show how it's actually like then exported. So I click on Rome Markdown. It will go through all the search results. It will copy them to clipboard. By the way, that also works on the page level. So if you just want to extract one single page, or if you want to extract a single note, that works too. There's a bit of a bug that is already fixed, that it's faster to load. Here, you can copy the note individually. That's also possible. And so if I now go to Rome and want to like paste it in, you see what happens is it essentially said here, put the title in that, put the URL as an attribute, put the spaces that this is into lists, and then put all the annotations and notes below that, and then loop through the next one, like exactly the same thing. So this is how you could get stuff out. You could also, for example, write an HTML template around this, so you can get it in a format that you can maybe import it into your WordPress blog and things like that.
Okay, so then it's really like copy to. You say there are three. One is the JSON, the other is this, which is a copy to clipboard with a given template, right? And what would be the third one?
The third one is a Readwise integration.
Oh.
So you can get automatically all your highlights through that. And hopefully at some point in the future, but we all know how difficult it is for these kind of networked thought tools, also a proper API so you can programmatically access it. But we haven't started with that yet.
Okay. That's cool. And I think my next question is really, how about the collaborative part? You know, how can I actually, rather than be my annotations, can be our annotations, let's say.
Yep. Mm-hmm. So you see, I'm now already in a space that is called the World Brain Shared Reading List. So this is the team shared reading list that we have. And here is a button that allows you to generate two types of links. And the one link is a commenter access, which gives everyone who has the link the ability to view those highlights and pages that you put in there and even reply to them. And they don't have to have Memex installed for that. You can just send them a link and they have the list. And the second one is a contributor access, which gives everyone who has that link the ability to also add their own pages and annotations to it. And so I'm going to go now to the commenter access just to showcase you how that looks. This is essentially as if I was to send it to someone. So you see now, here's all the things that have been put in there. You can open the highlights, you can add your own notes to it. You can reply to those highlights straight from that interface by clicking here on this comment icon, reply icon, then have the conversation there.
Okay, so it's more like to share ideas about some highlight or some piece of information, let's say, but there's not really like, let's say, writing together. It's more like, let's have a conversation about that information.
Yeah, so the steps in which this is currently in its current incarnation useful is where you are doing, for example, a collaborative literature review, where you really want to sense into the same content, want to have a conversation before you integrate it, for example, into your writing process, or having a shared deep reading list where you say, okay, hey, we just every now and then async pump stuff into it and we want to read it together and I want to see your notes and I want to have a conversation about that. What we already have on the near-term roadmap, and hopefully we can get to it in the next 3 weeks, is that each of those spaces will also have a text field that you can then write in together. So for example, that would be useful, for example, to introduce what is that space about. Or maybe there's some additional resources that you want to link to that says, hey guys, we want to do this research project on nuclear fusion, for example, and here's the reading list, but here's also a Google Doc link to where we're going to write about it. And so people can add more context to that. And it's not going to be in the beginning, but the technology that we use will already make that possible, that this text field becomes fully collaborative in kind of like a Google Doc style. So you can actually do some level of writing in it.
Yeah, because I see like it can be even be used for classrooms, you know, when sometimes they say there is the reading list and then say the classroom needs to be discussing a specific thing on the reading list. And then now there is my question about competitors, let's say, because there is Hypothesis, for example. Hypothesis, they enable like for you to be discussing about a given source. So my question would be like, how is Memex different from Hypothesis? What are the main differences?
So on a very high level, the main difference between Hypothesis and Memex is that Memex is also made for curating together. That's where Hypothesis is not so focused on. Hypothesis is mostly, hey, we have a group and we want to annotate things, but it's not so much about how do I curate a list of things that need to be shared as a whole. That's very high level. The second, what I consider the most significant difference is that the design of hypothesis is not very well suited for the kind of multi-context work that people do when reading. And that means what happens often is when you read an article, you actually have multiple people in mind that you might want to annotate it for. Or you have the same annotation that you want to send to multiple different groups, but have a different conversation in each of those. And hypothesis doesn't really allow that. In hypothesis, you need to add a single annotation always to one group. And the second, and if you want to send the same annotation to another group, you actually need to make a new annotation, for example. But maybe this is best if I just showcase how that looks also in context of how now, what would happen if you have this shared reading list and you want to see the highlights that are made by other people in the context of the page and not just in such a list. Let's go for one where I know there's a good conversation going on. It's this one here. So now I'm opening this article from the list, and then I can again go to the sidebar. And then I have this section here, my shared spaces. My connection is a bit bad, that's why it takes a bit longer to load. So now I go to shared spaces, and then I see all the spaces that this page is in that I either follow, so I can follow updates of spaces, or that I'm an active collaborator in. And so for example, here the World Brain Shared Reading List are now all of those highlights inside. And there's also, for example, a conversation that I can have straight in the article. And if so this is kind of how I would like have that conversation in a context. And you already see here that this annotation, for example, has two different spaces attached to it. So one is a shared reading list that I have with Evan, and one is the shared reading list that I have with the team. And so what I can do if I add here, I can just add a new space. So demo space, for example. And now I added the third space to it.
And how can I
this means
add sorry, how can I add a comment just for the demo space, for example?
Ah, yeah, okay, so that's an update that we haven't done yet. So what will happen is when you click on the conversations here and this node is in multiple spaces, you will actually be able to see the different spaces it is in and the different threads that are associated to them. Here right now, you need it's a bit like not so straightforward, is you actually need to go to the space itself, then have the conversation here. So it's just that you need to go into that space and find the annotation there. But obviously this is can be much simplified, and that's what we already have on the pipeline.
Yeah, and my question, like, for example, if I because in the screen I already have the annotation, can I click on that annotation to open the annotation on the side, or I really need to go into the sidebar to find the annotation?
So what happens is if you click from the side of the sidebar to the annotation, you can just click on one and it will scroll there. So that's possible. When you close the sidebar and you're in that space, then it will open again like this. Okay. But what is not yet implemented is that you're gonna see all the highlights on a page automatically. What is an improvement that we're gonna start in about 4 weeks is that when you are in such a shared space and you click on one of those pages, you don't have to do the work that I did right now anymore of going to the sidebar, opening it, clicking it on the space. It would automatically open the page already with the highlights of the space you came from. Okay. So you reduce those steps and have it immediately there. Yeah.
Well, I found it really good because one of the things that is a big discussion nowadays is okay, we have our notes, our PKMs, they are good. I mean, we can do a lot of things with them, but then we cannot share them. They are really PKM. The maximum we can do sometimes is just expose our notes and no one can actually interact with them. So there is a big question, like how can we actually collaborate on our notes and then build from them? So I think I found it's really good for especially for that purpose, especially where you say I can share the same thing with multiple groups and we can have different discussions on the multiple groups. In my own use case, I would be like, okay, but how can I get then the annotations into my own PKM and then build from there, or bring my annotations from my PKM into this shared space, for example, because at the end we are working like 5 sometimes apps, for different specific parts of our workflow. So for example, in my case, I use Obsidian and Scrinton, mostly like for my notes. So in Obsidian is really like Markdown. So I could use the option to copy to clipboard, but by the end of the day, it would be like copy, 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 So it would be interesting also to see like some sort of like export, not just in JSON, but maybe to Markdown, or maybe that's a plugin for Obsidian, I don't know. Although I think like export Markdown would be easier to export to multiple apps, it's just like export Markdown. If you want to use Google Docs,
I agree. Yeah.
Be happy, go with Google Docs, because now they will support Markdown. But then I think that will be, at least for me, on a personal level, that would be very, very interesting.
Yeah, I fully agree. And this is one of the use cases that I'm personally looking forward to when we have the API. And the way, from a UX point of view, how I imagine this to work, that it again is in the spirit of being able to do this on the fly and while being in the tab, and not actually have to like again context switch, is that when you use the space picker here, you actually have more options in what categories of spaces you have. For example, right now it's just spaces, but the two things that we want to add is other apps and people. And so essentially a workflow that has been surfacing quite often from the people that already started using it, specifically the collaboration features, is that often you actually want to recommend something to someone that doesn't use Memex yet. And if you, for example, what you usually do is you copy the link, then you go to Telegram or Twitter or Slack or whatever, and then you paste in the link there. But that is obviously a minefield for being distracted. And also, you produce this, you push this content somewhere where it's going to be very hard to recover again. And so what we imagine here is that if you use the space picker and you press @ what you actually can do is you can type in the Telegram or Twitter username, and then you can send a DM to that person straight from Memex. The same way you could do this with, for example, applications where you say, push this to Obsidian, push this to Notion. Because, but obviously that will require the API to be there.
Because what I can see me using, really, it's really, because how, like, you need to either like you have a paper in front of you, you need to put it in Zotero. If you want to use Zotero, you need to copy directly somewhere locally, and you put in Zotero, and you put the Zotero to export to a place, and then you read the PDF and extract the information into your notes. So it's a whole, and you have the PDF in front of you, you can just like, okay, just take the notes, So what I would see myself doing is really like, okay, I'm taking the notes there, and then as I created the notes in Memex, for example, then they will be already in my PKM, and I could even maybe like or add a link, knowing that I have a link on my PKM or something like that, which is Obsidian or another app. So in my mind, that's how it would be really, really cool to use. I think like in the current state is really good already, my opinion. But that would be really like a big plus. So yeah.
Yes, and I guess the closest we can get so far is the Readwise integration, because the Readwise integration will also port over any spaces that you associated with. So it will actually port over Evan Ollie, for example, as a page ref. So you have the double brackets around it, meaning if it swings back, you at least already have it well integrated into the networky ways that your other applications work. It's not yet, like, because Readwise has that limitation that you cannot send bookmarks, and then also not actually like route bookmarks. So that's not possible yet, but we have a potential workaround that we're going to implement at some point that would make that also possible, at least in the short term. So this means you have, even without the API, via the Readwise integration, the ability to have some level of automatic sync. And if everything else fails, to come back to the copy paster, I think like what could be what I personally do and what I can imagine could work is just to say, like, every week in your process of like gardening and maintaining some of your organization, you can go and just search for the things that I have added the last 2 weeks, and then just copy those out in just like 2 clicks. One, select the template so it copies, and then go back into your notes and paste it in. Then you at least have some level of sync that is with not with the need of doing it like every single day or things like that.
Yeah. And the next question, like, how can, if someone wants to use, how can we download? How can we join? How can we see it?
Just on memex.garden. The website is outdated, so it's in the process right now of being updated. But here's where you download it. Everything that I showed today is live. This was my personal production, my own Memex. So just get started with it. Also in the onboarding process to the tool, there's also the opportunity to have an onboarding call with me. I'm super happy to give a personal onboarding to anyone who's interested. Yeah, that's basically all.
Okay. Well, thanks a lot for having this onboarding session with me, to doing the demo and answering my questions. So I want to give it a try. I want to actually start exploring the idea of sharing and see how it goes, and I let you know how it goes.
Yes. Oh, I'm excited, and also that's both for you and for anyone who's listening to this video later. Please don't hesitate to reach out if you have any feature improvements or bugs that you come across. There's this chat window on our website, and also if you are in the Memex itself, here in the bottom right is also this question mark with a chat button, and then you can shoot straight in my Slack inbox, and then I'm answering right away.
Okay, that's perfect. So thanks a lot, Oliver, and I really hope to talk to you soon, and not with bugs,
Yes.
but with some cool ideas.
Yes, yes. Cool. Have a great day.
You too.
Bye.
So this was my first experience with Memex Garden. I hope you have enjoyed, and I see you in the next video. Bye bye.